Every single time I forget to put in here. Audience. Okay.
All right. Sorry, that was really loud. Hello, welcome to Grown Up Story Time. My name is Emily, and
I'm Blair.
And we produce this show. Thank you for being here. We have a couple of announcements to tell you about before we bring up your host. And I'm going to start with this thing that I'm planning. I thought it would be cool to do like little casual story reading selection events that we could invite y'all to. So we're going to do one in April. I think it'll be April 11th, but we'll put it up on our social media. But basically, like, the deadline for story time is like a week before story time, and then usually Blair and I just get together and read stories, but we were like, let's invite people. So we're going to do it at Double Trouble, like the Tuesday before the next Grown Up Story Time. Like, anyone can come and help us read through the stories and decide what should be at the next one. So if that sounds cool to you, then the easiest thing to do would be to follow us on social media. We're at Grown Up Story Time on everything. It's also pretty easy just to come talk to me and I can get your information. So, yeah.
Yes, because our voices get worn out reading all the stories, so definitely love some other vocal boards. I'm really excited. We have finally found a venue and a date and a time for a readers workshop. Woo! Finally. So it's on the program, which if you do need more programs, they are down at the corner of the stage. You can grab it because it has all that fun information on the back. But Readers Workshop is going to be at the Heights Library in their meeting room, Saturday, May 20th, 2 o'clock. If you would like more information about that, what is required, all the things, contact me, and we'll make sure you're all set up. But finally, it's happening. Hey. It's maybe the first one in 5 years, I don't know.
At least it's been. Okay.
First one since 2019. I'm going to be on the second one. Okay.
Also, I just like to do a little demo of how to adjust these things for all of the readers. I think a lot of the readers are over here. Some of them are over here, but if you want to adjust the music stand, anchor it with your foot, and then just up and down. And if you want to adjust the mic stand, there's some knobs. One here, one here, one here. It's lefty-loosey. Righty-tighty. So lefty-loosey on the knob. You adjust it how you like it, righty-tighty. Put it back where it is.
Okay. And then here's just my general sound announcement. So we have noticed in live performances that sometimes you hear something in a story and you want to either talk about it or something about your phone becomes interesting. I don't know. Just remember that you're in an area where every time you get up, move around, it makes noise, including when the host is talking. And the host, she's got things to say. So just make sure that we have an intermission where you can get up and move around about the cabin, no problem. But just be aware of your sounds while there are people on stage performing.
And maybe lastly, we just want to thank the Continental Club for having us. We really love being here. So let's give a round of applause. And thank you, Anne, our wonderful bartender. Give some pints to her with your money. And also, there's a thing that happens every Tuesday at Big South California time. We usually kind of migrate over there after the show. So come hang out with us afterwards. If you want to, and on every other Tuesday it happens. That's it. Okay, bring it forward. Yeah.
All right, let's bring up our host. Personally, I'm very excited about this. I don't really know how else to introduce her other than she's part of Zine Fest. She is actually, she doesn't maybe even remember this, but she's one of the first activists I ever met in Houston. And she's just all around badass Maria. Maria, say, come on.
All right, well, I was gonna take it off the stand, but I don't want to maybe mess with it too much. So, all right, well, let's get this thing started. Thank you guys all for being here tonight. Welcome one and all to Grown Up Storytime, Houston's premier monthly storytelling event. I am thrilled to be here. As our lovely organizers mentioned, my name is Maria Lisa Heck. I will be your host this evening. And it's a joy for me to be here, not only because I love GUST, but also because I'm a little bit new to hosting. So I'm kind of getting my toes wet in the gig. I did it about a few weeks ago, and I feel like, I'm going to try some stuff out, right? Not everything sticks to the wall, and I was like, should I do some bits? Should I do some trivia? Yeah. But I thought it would be shut up, I didn't do that. But I was thinking, because the last time I tried this thing, I was like, let me do like a whole setup, right? So the setup was like, it didn't go great, but let me tell you how it went. So I asked everybody, first of all, so who's first time here? Raise your hand. All right, okay. So I did that. I had everybody keep their hands up. Back up. Okay, great. And so everybody had their hands up, and I was like, yay, good for you. And so then what I did is I looked at the organizers and I said, okay, guys, those are the folks who need the waivers. And then I said, well, don't worry. It's about dismemberment, accidental death, acts of God, no worries. And, it kind of mid, but the organizer actually looked confused and a little frightened. So I was like, okay, maybe I won't do that one again. Oh, fuck. Anyway, let's move on. Can I go back? So tonight we've got a fantastic night of stories lined up for you guys. I hope you're as excited as I am, so sit back, relax, and tip your bartender. So, yes, that's right. Let's get this show on the road. So first up, let's give a big hand to Natalie Nassar, who will be reading hymn 29, Boston, by Marian Misa.
It was the boldest move I ever made. Summer of 2017, I'm in Boston at a club I stumbled upon after hanging out with a few people I met on an internet forum. Meeting people from internet forums was a thing in the mid-2010s. I recall a lot of blue lighting and terrible, terrible club smog. There I am, cranberry vodka in hand, dancing solo to some hit Pitbull probably had that year. The steam is steaming, and the thirst is thirsting. I see a guy right at 12 o'clock. We lock gazes for less than a second, and I look away. Not 2 seconds go by, and I return the gaze. He's Indian, short, dressed too well, which tells me he's trying too hard to fit in, which leads me to conclude he's new to the States. Presumptuous, I know, but how did you think in 2016? None of this is relevant because what's most important is that he's alone, like me. Alone. I see him, He sees me, and I go straight across the dance floor, dodging pit bull enthusiasts, to only walk up to him and say, "You want to get out of here?" He's unsure of what I said, but knows I'm not going to repeat myself, so he just responds, "Yes." We walk out in the middle of downtown Boston and walk to his apartment nearby. He's a dental student at Tufts. I assumed from the dental molds and on his dresser and the scrubs all over the floor in his messy bedroom. We began to kiss, and within the first 5 seconds, he aims for my chest, only to retract. He sits on the bed and he begins weeping. Deep, heavy, long weeps. He tells me he's married and can't move forward. Yeah. He misses his wife, he misses intimacy, and he landed here 2 days after his wedding. Why I chose to stay here and hold him for the next 30 minutes is probably because I felt partially responsible for standing between this man and his fidelity. And not only that, but I also understand what it felt like being alone. So alone, you end up consoling a complete stranger because it beats spending another minute alone with yourself. He called me an Uber, and on the ride home, I thought about what overcame me to make such a bold move tonight. Was it to be a pioneer in charge of my own nighttime destiny? I'd say it was the vodkas, but that would be a lie. I only had one. I decided to give the credit to Pitbull and his consistent dubbing. Thank you. Wow, what a roller coaster, right? You go out to a club to meet someone at Pitbull night, and you end up being the only white guy at the club. It's crazy. But it just put me in mind of a quote that I Googled and is apparently attributed to Mark Twain, Aristotle, Elon Musk, and Albert Einstein, which goes, what's the difference between a tragedy and a comedy? The ending. Now y'all are thinking. Anyway, let's go ahead and invite our next reader to the stage, Hannah Bull, who will be reading Gold by Danielle Simmons. Take it away, Hannah. Sorry, it's my first time. Hey.
My friend Brittany came into my life a while ago. When I made the switch from teaching in a so-called urban high schools to teaching at a high school in the suburbs, we had just moved to said suburb, and perhaps teaching at a high school that ostensibly educates the local suburban youth, as in my neighbors, was not the best idea. But that is a different story for another time. Brittany and I were both new on the team, although she somehow already appeared simpatico with much of the staff there. She talked about frequenting bars I didn't even know existed, and she knew current music. She had platinum blonde hair and skin that looked like an Instagram filter. I later learned she gets Botox. But don't worry, she doesn't give a shit if you know about it. If you can't tell, I found her intimidating. She was so clearly the type of cool girl I've never felt quite cool enough to be actual friends with. I didn't make my earnest attempts to get to know her at first. I assumed we wouldn't hit it off. We happen to have the same off period. This isn't administration jargon, remember, we're teachers. So we usually find ourselves sitting across from one another in the workroom, engaging in friendly but mostly shallow conversation. So like, what are you doing this weekend? Anything exciting going on? That sort of thing. I'm sorry, I'm losing. With just a touch of toco fry and that little head wobble girls like to do for some reason. Goes like this. But somewhere in that first year, we started sending stupid memes back and forth to each other, or links to TikTok that we couldn't share directly via social media because we just hadn't crossed that boundary yet. We were word friends. Adulthood level 3 unlocked. Now I could select. I have one friend at work on my job satisfaction survey. Excellent. As our first year on staff was winding down, we were crossing the threshold from work friendship to civilian friendship. And later in the summer, we got together to engage in a time-honored girl friendship experience, laying out by the pool. I lost my spot doing that. We would read trashy books or fashion magazines. We'd sip on margaritas or seltzers. What the fuck? I don't even like seltzers. Fucking things really are everywhere now. We'd vibe to some atmospheric summer music and maybe even streak our hair with sun in. She lived in one of those apartment complexes that caters to the hip Houston urban professional, where you can hop on the bike path and ride downtown for work during the week, then take hot girl walks to the juice lane on Saturday morning. Yeah! Of course, the sort of complex has a full setup that just begs to host an MTV spring break high school party. 6'6" men strutting around with their nipples out, and possibly 10 women in tiny swimsuits I could swear were made for children. And all the pheromones, and coke, and alcohol-induced antics and promise. I can talk about it like this because I used to live in one of these complexes, too. You cannot deny the appeal of it all. If our little pool hang turned into one of those pool parties, I wouldn't be mad about it. I love people watching. It rained because Houston. So we settled for getting a little high and watching trashy reality TV instead. Brittany's apartment is decorated in precisely 3 colors: black, white, and beige, with splashes of metallic gold throughout. It's not my personal aesthetic, but it absolutely works for her, and it's an aesthetic. I enjoy that very much. See, my house is some bizarre hodgepodge like a cabinet of curiosities, if most of the curiosities came from Amish furniture stores, Central American artisan markets that are actually designed for tourists, and, of course, Target. It can be hard to take in. My anxiety-addled brain craves consistency and clarity, so spaces like that are anesthetic, are very appealing to me. I know how to dress with the space. I understand the pro-social expectations of the space. I can predict the kind of people I'm going to encounter in the space. I can even make a list of potential conversation topics in my head. Upscale hair salon, Hailey Bieber and Selena Gomez? The right answer is Selena, but I'm not entirely clear on why. Dive bar, quirky hobbies, rolling papers, and mustaches, independent brewery, old school buses converted to cozy mobile homes, and you know what? Fuck capitalism. I don't sit and actively make these mental preparations. I'm not Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't carry note cards. I just have it. Anyhow, I'm sorry about the mic thing. Anyhow, the point is that categories such as aesthetics are very helpful and soothing to me. I don't have to make so many quick decisions because I inherently understand how to exist in a space that I can more easily categorize. I'm able to relax and just be. I experienced this sensation in her apartment. So our bacchanalian pool party had been rained out, And instead of reading trashy books and dripping that sweet summer sweat of socks, chlorine, and sunblock, we were just watching the trash TV in her apartment. God, which one was it again? Love is Blind, Fat Boy Island, Little Tomato. That was it. It's so delightfully terrible. If you're ever the least bit curious, just do yourself a favor and indulge. Don't worry, no one has to know. Unless you share a Netflix account with like 8 other people, 3 of which are part of a throuple, 1 of whom you used to date, and another who you hooked up with. You know who you are. Or they're like your family. Aww. An episode or so in, a splash of gold on the edge of a well-curated flash end table caught my attention. A gold pair of earrings, casually removed and yet somehow artfully placed. I examined them and held one up in wonder. How do you know? I asked her, waving the earring towards her. She stared back at me. I realized she knew where I was going with that question. I tried again. How do you know you're a gold girl and not a silver girl? I can't tell you how many times I've taken an online quiz on the subject and walked away more frustrated than the time before. I've probably been taking some version of this quiz since girlhood. Seriously circling answer choice A. My veins are definitely green. Wait, damn it! Now that I turn my wrist this way, they look purple. Better change that answer to B. Brittany looked at me. Still not quite sure what I meant. Like, how do you know you have warm undertones and not cool ones? That gold suits you and not silver. How did you figure it out? Oh, I didn't know about any of that. I just like gold better. I think it looks good on me. Then she went right on living her life as if she hadn't just exploded my brain across the meticulous weekend and clean, beige, black, and white living room. It hadn't occurred to me that I could just choose. Did someone, somewhere, invent this gold versus silver dichotomy? To what end? Why is this a category I need? I can just wear what I like? What could I have been doing all these years when I was wasting mental energy on vapid rules foisted upon me by, I don't know, the jewelry industry, media companies, the fucking patriarchy? Fuck it, dude. I'm still not entirely sure why this casual exchange looms so large for me. There's a lot there, I suspect. But I do know, without my strong and brave friend, that my world wouldn't be quite so golden. And that would be a damn shame, because a touch of gold warms everything up. Period.
Wow, lots to unpack there. Actually, that was a question that never crossed my mind either, whether or not you're a gold or silver person. But the reason I never asked that of myself is because I'm half Colombian, so obviously I'm a gold girl. Anybody else in the audience who can understand, go, ooh. Hey. All right, well, let's move on. I was going to do a little bit about like how it's great to make new friends and how it's hard to do as an adult. And you know how like I would like to make new friends sometimes because like some of my friends really getting on my last one, but the person, an unspecified individual who I was going to talk about apparently is somewhere in here. And girl, I'm so happy to see you. Can't wait to catch up with you later. Anyway, let's go ahead and give a warm welcome to our next reader, James Lancaster, who will be reading Indy and the Legend of the Overfiend, written by Andrew Cosma.
like watching bad movies. There, I said it. I'm not ashamed. I like bad art. You might think I'm being overly aggressive here because I don't want to be judged. And so before you judge me, I judge myself. Throwing you off guard with a little 1-2 punch like, I like the bad. Plus, I'm proud to like the bad. And you might suspect, nay, even be confident that I'm just as ashamed about liking the bad movies as you think I should be. You'd be wrong, of course. And you'd be giving me credit for cleverness I don't have, which would make an ass out of you and me. I assume. The thing is, I prefer to watch an unknown to me and probably bad movie over a good movie any day. Because the thing is, the good movie is likely to be good. Millions of people have already watched it and dubbed it so. And because I know the good movie is good and I enjoy it, I can partake in that enjoyment whenever I want. The good movie will always be there, just hanging around, willing to listen to my problems, or make me a nice meal. But there's no mystery, no excitement, and no, I'm not somehow using relationships as a metaphor for my bad movie watching. I dare you. I'm single. You can get my number from the organizers after the show. All of which is to say that this is a story about my friend Indy and our experience with Legend of the Overfiend. I met Indy during a pre-freshman year outward bound program where we romped through the wilds of West Virginia for a few days. Maybe just a day trip. It was years ago. I would hold me down and scream, "The facts! What are the facts, sir?" in my face. We talked about movies, about anime, about creating a club where we could gather others to watch such things, including bad movies, and about how watching bad movies is a communal experience. The joy not so much guaranteed by the movies themselves, but in suffering through them together, or sharing joy at finding the unknown treasure. Jack Frost. The film about a killer snowman. I'm looking. I'll say now that Indy is not Indy's real name. Indy was the name of the dog. Indy's real name was Ulysses Alejandro Jones. He wore the Indiana Jones hat and had a leather jacket and also, I think, had a whip. Maybe it's also really deep masking for his BDSM habit. Maybe it's also been so long I'm misremembering that his last name was Jones. He was black. Why the fuck would I mention that? Oh yeah, I'm a white person. America's a racist society. We grow up breathing in, drinking racism. So now I mentioned Indy as black because that's the strangest thing about the whole experience and his personality. Is that the white guy who cosplayed in real life as Indiana Jones would be any less weird. Though I don't think Indy was weird at all, as much as I thought any of my friends in college were weird. He was awesome. He was a good friend. He disappeared after freshman year, and I've been unable to find him since. You'd be surprised how many Ulysses Alejandros there are on Facebook. Well, maybe you wouldn't be. That's the white person bias again. Whatever. This story isn't about my lack of racial consciousness or Indy or bad movies in general. It's about the time we got together in our club to watch Legend of the Overfiend. In the TV lounge at Thurston Hall, a freshman dorm that housed just under 1,000 students. We reserved this TV lounge in the hopes that a bunch of people would show up, but it was just about 5 or 6 of us diehards. And we were excited to watch this movie because I had talked it up. See, I'd become aware of the Legend of the Overfiend because it had been played in an art house theater a few towns over from where I grew up. And I'd been eager to see it at the time because it was anime in the theater. And I'd never imagined that could happen. And if it was in a theater, it had to be good. And it had to be not some kind of tentacle sex porn, right? Right. Imagine a movie where within a first 5 minutes a woman is assaulted by several demons, tentacular penises, violence, dark. It's so goddamn full of sounds, like the sound system in this freshman dorm TV lounge is amazing. Imagine! The TV lounge was just off the main entrance to the dorm. This dorm that housed, I remind you, 1,000 students, and any and all of them walking by just had to turn their head to see a Godzilla-sized monster with a triple penis spraying down an entire city with bright, destructive rays. Imagine! We turned off the TV real quick, but we couldn't figure out how to turn off the sound. There was some moaning and some squelching and crying, and it's probably us crying with shame and nervous laughter. And there we were, the screen dark with the sounds. Coming from everywhere in full Dolby surround sound capability. Somehow we shut it off. Somehow we got the DVD back at Tower Records. Somehow we soldiered on in our quest for bad movies, decided never again to watch in a space so public where we couldn't bar the door if necessary, even for our own protection. Indy and I, we made that mistake together, ridding the legend of That year, we built a strong enough core group that throughout college, we had regular hangouts where we watched The Head or Castle Freak, or anime suddenly turned surprisingly sexual and look, we didn't know. We just looked at the cover and said, oh yeah, our bad. A number of people I know left after first year. One had owned his own construction company and realized he didn't really need a degree to do that. Others left for family reasons or money or for their own mental health. I don't know why Andy left. I just know that I missed him. I still do. Look, I know this story seems to be about racism, tentacle porn, bad taste in art, but really, it's all about love and what we do to make that shit work. And I failed. I think I failed.
Wow. Guess I shot my wad with that comment on the last story. That was a lot to unpack. But also poignant. Actually reminded me of a story from when I was in college. And we had a whole little group of us that hung out and we were watching 2001: A Space Odyssey. Some for the first time. Excellent film. We all got to share the experience of my one friend discovering that she had a deep and existential, soul-deep terror of the monolith. Like, didn't know that, now it haunts her for the rest of her life. Now, this was back in the day when you could only just begin to tag people on Facebook and you got all of your notifications on email. If you don't remember that, shut the hell up, I don't want to hear about it. So, one day, in an album just chock-a-block with fun party photos of our friend group, I just dropped in a little screen cap of that scene where, you know, when he's gone through the gauntlet of the cosmos and he's lying in bed, maybe 10 million years old, and the monolith is just there, tag her right in the dead center. And I wasn't there for it, but apparently people were like, in her room in a minute being like, are you okay? Because she screamed bloody murder. And, well, she transferred the next year, and I'm sure it was unrelated. Anyway, let's keep it moving. Next up, we've got William Hester reading Holy Michael Jackson's Disease, Batman by Abhinav Kumar.
Hi. This is less a story, more of a build-up to an absurd picture I want to paint for you. Stay with me for a couple minutes, and I promise the final mental image is worth it. So enjoy the winding vignettes and know that it's all leading to some partial nudity. Once upon a time, there was a middle school boy in North Texas. Even though he didn't look like most of his classmates, that wasn't enough. He wanted to be even more different. He wanted 2 feathery human-sized wings to sprout out of his upper back, one from each shoulder. It might be painful at first, but it would be worth it. So before bed, he prayed most nights to the regular gods, the ones with many faces and limbs and genders and colors and weapons and animal heads. But to cover his bases, he also prayed to the lonely bearded American god who wore that early haircut. The boy didn't know if they knew that he didn't know whether he knew if they were real or not, but he prayed to them all the same. Poor small wings. Well, obviously he didn't get wings, but one day he learned he had Michael Jackson's disease. Not that one, the other one. The one that makes your skin like a ghost. Even though his parents freaked out, and the doctor said that there was no cure and nobody in his family history ever had it, the shit hit the fan with the adults. But the boy daydreamed about looking like Two-Face from Batman, perfectly cut in half by color. Cool. But his disease didn't present as clean as it did with the iconic evildoer. And not like it did with Two-Face either. The boy's body was more like a lava lamp. White leopard spots would migrate with the seasons, growing and shrinking and morphing with no direction or pattern. Across his forehead, under his ears, on his eyelids, in the middle of his chest, on his knees, shins, elbows, wrists, everywhere. His hair even turned silver on and off. As weird as it was, nothing really changed day to day. No one made fun of him through his speckled Rorschach face, as far as he knew. He still got kicked out of the library chess club for being too loud. He still practiced the clarinet in high school band, and he was still working through his complicated feelings for a young newcomer named Britney Spears. Nothing changed until one summer at Six Flags over Texas. It was all fun under the sweltering sun with the Texas Giant and Mr. Freeze and the Batman rides until the next day when the boy couldn't move his eyebrows. He couldn't even open his left eyelid. He couldn't straighten his arms or legs. He couldn't walk without excruciating pain. Made of melanin and never an Englishman, this was the boy's first sunburn. It was no ordinary sunburn. All of his leopard spots from head to toe puffed out with pus, all insanely inflamed along his joints. It was pretty much paralyzed for a few days. So his uniqueness had a weakness. Had he been praying to the devil instead of Lakshmi and Jesus? Was his skin on fire because the gods thought him facetious? After healing, the boy's parents took him to see Dr. James Bond. Seriously. A dermatologist with an experimental treatment for Michael Jackson's disease. 3 times a week at 5 a.m., the boy would pop a pill. This pill made his body super sensitive to the sun, weakened his eyes, and wrecked his digestive system. Then he would strip, sport some Geordie LaFord sunglasses, and stand in a Star Trek sun tube of controlled ultraviolet light. The idea was to blast the skin cells with mini sun and get them to end their civil war. But the nausea and the 90-minute commute before morning band practice was not worth it. So the boy stopped going. It was a gut decision. The boy's parents were furious at his lack of respect for how people disrespect others based on the way they look. They worked with James Bond to find a solution. It turned out he could pop a lower dose of the pill and bask in the sun for a little while, like sunbathing, but very carefully and not for too long. He could do it at home, in the backyard. Side note, the boy had a troubled relationship with his rear neighbors. They were always looking out their windows. One time they saw him sneak his first cigarette and told his parents of the time they called the cops when they said there was, quote, a Mexican boy who had hopped their fence. So he was nervous about dating his neighbors who knows what they would do if they found that cigarette smoking, fence hopping, 6th grade Mexican menace standing there naked under the sun, posing like the man. We need to practice clarinet, don't you? Just do it in the backyard in your underwear, it'll be fine. And here, my friends, is the capstone image that promised to be the beginning. It was such a wonderfully sunny afternoon. And when the shocked neighbors looked out from their windows behind their house, they saw a young, nearly nude, leopard-skinned young boy, wearing nothing but Jordan LaForge sunglasses and hand-white tights. He sat barefoot on a chair in the green grass with perfect posture. Sheet music take to a music stand. The dry Denton County wind tussled his silvery hair, graced his chocolate and vanilla nipple, tickled his polka-dotted chin, and made the trees dance through a river of classical music pouring out of its clarinet. He paused and looked up at his gawky neighbors from behind his futuristic medical sunglasses, and then he adjusted the elastic on his underwear as he wanted to be presentable. Then he went right back to playing. It wasn't the kind of spectacle he had prayed for, but pretty damn good enough. Thank you.
King. All right, that's it for the first half. We're gonna regroup in a few minutes after our intermission. Go to the bathroom, grab a drink, see your friends, and we'll be back here in just a little bit.
All right, fair audience. We shall now gather again for stories. However, before I have our hosts come back up, we are. Okay, so here's the thing. This venue is fantastic for loud music, and it's fantastic for us, but only if we really do commit to not speaking. Yes, not speaking in this room. So even if you're having like a conversation that you feel is like whispering, we can. Unfortunately, it's bothering people around you. So there's a huge patio outside. I'm just saying, if you are like, hey, I kind of want to hang. I'm into that, but out there. So in here, stories and hosts out there, conversations. Ishi. I said that wrong. Okay. Yeah.
All right, everybody, you heard the nice lady. You're gonna finish this up for me, all right? Shut the hell up. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so next up, first of all, hope you had a nice break. Let's gas the crowd up a little bit. Are y'all ready for a trio of tales most terrific? Tremendous. All right, so without further ado, let's get the second half started. Let's bring up Amy Grisby, who will be reading The Plant Man Van by Claire McLinnis.
McLinnis.
I was practicing it all night.
Fancy.
My Cabbage Patch Kids re-stickable picture book had a very distinctive and enjoyable scent. It was the smell of cheap plastic and probably toxic. I was always tempted to chew on them, so there were little gnawed edges and teeth marks on each sticker, crimping the edges like a hideous saliva-coated doily. Let me be clear. I was far beyond the age of teething. It was the sensory experience I craved. I was extremely preoccupied with the project of unfolding and organizing all the stickers because they had a tendency to wrinkle and stick together from the static cling. And as I was midway through this intensive project, my dad entered my room, groggy and sleepy-eyed in the early morning. He was responsible for preparing me for school that day, which might have been acceptable on any other day of the school year. However, on that particular day, it was picture day. What do you want to wear? He asked as he pursued my clothing drawers. Just this, I said, as I pointed to the pajama set I was already wearing. Couldn't he see that I was busy working? Gotta get you ready for the day, he said in his assertive voice, which wasn't assertive or convincing at all. Okay, I shred. As he brushed my hair, I brushed my Little Pony's hair and tail. As he brushed our teeth, I bathed my most beloved plush toy, which was made out of pink parachute material and was named Puffalump in the sink. And I was quickly reminded that this was not an acceptable activity. You want me to do anything special with your hair? My dad asked reluctantly. I don't know, I answered disinterestedly. Within my brain, I was already devising a plot to hijack the smelly pen set at my preschool, or at least the best scents, colors. Each pen in this collection had a very defined aroma, of which my least favorite, it was licorice. And my most delicious flavor was raspberry. I would scribble on an entire paper, and a piece of paper was covered with a bundle or two or more pens, and I would mash that paper into my face and inhale deeply. When the teacher wasn't watching, I would take the liberty of shoving the pens directly into my nostrils for an immediate hit to the olfactory. Woo! Like some Kinder sort of cokehead, it was evident by the markings around my nose and my upper lip. Oh, they knew what I had been up to. I always denied it. Okay, it's time to go, my dad announced. And he took my hand and grabbed my lunchbox and jacket, and we headed out the door. But, it's picture day! I said shrilly. It's too late now, my father stated firmly. We marched out to his white workman's van, which had the words, "The Plant Man," lettered in dark green lettering along the sides. He strapped me into the passenger car as I kicked my little legs in protest. The temper tantrum commenced in 0.2 seconds. Who did this guy think he was, shoving me into the van that smelled like potting soil and stale cigarettes? Like a demonic, enraged garbage pail kid, I pried myself out of that ramshackle car seat in 4 seconds flat, just as we were climbing up a steep hill. I stumbled back into the van in the middle of San Francisco morning rush hour traffic like some deranged Raggedy Ann doll on the loose. Then, with my tiny fist, I pounded the back windows as I screamed and cried, demanding he take me back home to prepare me for my photo shoot. Oh. Jesus Christ, my dad muttered through his clenched teeth as he laughed in the way he did when he was embarrassed or terrified. Not a single head turned in acknowledgement of what was occurring in our traffic jam, much to my dad's relief as he waved and nodded to the drivers on our left and our right. It couldn't have looked more like a child abduction. A white van. Double back doors. Guilty looking driver. Small pajama-clad child loose in the cab. Banging on the windows whilst crying and screaming relentlessly. The only thing missing from this scenario was the letters SOS written in condensation on the back door window. and only because I couldn't spell yet or understand the meaning of acronyms. Close to the end of my drive, my dad suggested that I have a seat on a bag of potting soil in the back of the truck. Exhausted, in my fury, I slumped onto the bag as I spiraled deeper and deeper into existential crisis. Once we had arrived at preschool, the principal was there to greet all the children in the front of the room. And my father apologized for our tardiness and briefly relayed the story to her. She dried my cheeks, and she brushed off some soil from my clothes and my PJs. And then, very convincingly, she affirmed me that I looked absolutely radiant. Dang, this woman was a good liar and teacher. She then unclasped her necklace, her golden necklace from her own neck, and she adorned me with it. She made it clear that it was just for me on loan, and it was just for my photograph, and that I must return it to her nicely after my picture was taken. During my shoot, I beamed. And I grinned like the royal princess of the most opulent goblin kingdom. Once the photo shoot was a wrap, and I had given up looking for my assistant and being taken to my trailer, I returned the necklace. And I returned it with reluctance to my kind and generous principal. Then away I scuttled to find that elusive pen set for a few bumps to the nostrils. My school picture that year was the best I have ever taken in my life. And even now, even when my parents received the photos in the mail a few weeks later, my mom and dad both agreed that I did truly look absolutely radiant. Thank you.
Wow, that was very vividly written and told. I'm sure I'm not the only one who had some flashbacks. Mine specifically was a set of markers, highly pigmented, highly scented, highly toxic. And I just had a pack of them with me one Sunday morning at Mass in the summer of 90 no sé qué in Mill Creek, Washington, while the homily was going on, just uncapping a little licorice, touched up a little melon. I was just getting high on non-toxic, toxic children's markers during the homily at Mass. You know, I think that's a shared experience we can all really lean into, right? Yeah, that's right. Well, moving on from childhood drug abuse, our next story, let's bring up Chuck Bond, who will be reading You Tell Me by Ronald L. Jones.
Let's let you go. Hey, all right. I attempted to write this story twice before, something I've grown accustomed to doing with inner dialogues I wish most to express with others. Though it may be an occurrence I'm familiar with, it nonetheless feels different, thinking and attempting to place these experiences to text. This is not to say that I've never recanted the following. I simply got scared while writing it. And that is not to say that any of what I'm about to share is actually scary, having never tried my hand at horror as a narrative. I was familiar, but would never be quite comfortable within the moment. They seem to exist in a timeless space, shaping themselves in the shadows, exploiting an active imagination, moving in the peripheral spaces, activating auditory hallucinations. They force a face to the surface of a random pattern, allowing the unseen and hidden things to seem dark and demonic. The they I mentioned, I cannot name. I can only allude to due to the unknown nature of the substance of their being. I sat in the tub in our home, the one we resided in when we acted like a nuclear family. The 3-bedroom, 2-bath included a foyer, a living room adjacent to a large kitchen where we sat and ate like a family. I had a negative, rather traumatic experience during one of the many occasions my parents were separated. That time, I was sitting in a tub of a hotel in the Sunnyside area. The tub had a safety drain under the faucet to prevent overflowing. It was in that grill-like space that a rat attempted to enter the bath with me. I looked out the door, seeing only the dimly lit living room and kitchen. Then suddenly, it walked by the door. A life-sized human-esque being disguised in a camouflage of white noise, reminiscent of television static. There was only the smooth motion of passing, not a hesitant interjection of movement as they passed the door's entrance. I saw it. An apparition. I do not recall whether I spoke out, yelled, or even mentioned it to my sister's mom or dad. I began to experience auditory hallucinations when I was very young. However, I would not entertain these as an abnormality even as a child. Television would present several ideas and occurrences where the idea of this happening would be considered a normal experience. The earliest expression of this was during 2nd grade. I was in class with my best friend, Gator, whose nickname came from his infatuation with the Florida Gator football team. We would laugh, joke, and become distractions for the class. This side, I'm only now beginning to recognize, was a serial pattern of established behavior. I disrupted nearly every class I attended once I found a friend that understood my sense of humor. We sat at a window which looked out onto the front lawn of the school, its huge live oak tree to the left. We sat directly facing an intersection which made Highway I-35's traffic, which is about 3 blocks away, visible. I stopped. I heard something. I looked around and attempted to locate who I thought I heard. It was my great-grandfather. He called my name. It was as if he was standing 5 feet behind me on my left side. I asked Gator if he heard the same thing. He had not. I could go on about the strange things I would see in the drip patterns of rain, mist, and fog. Yet, what I would rather arrive at is a conclusive story that would offer a summation of my experiences with the unknown. To arrive to that space, I will need to teleport you to 2003. In this era of my life, I resided in Southern California, More specifically, Costa Mesa, California. I had 3 roommates until I had 5 roommates. I invited a recently unhoused friend and his girlfriend to move in with us. They drove from Texas to Costa Mesa. Long story short, it did not end well. Wait, so that was not the end of the story. That was the end of the saga of the apartment in Costa Mesa. When we separated, 2 of the roommates moved into a large 2-story in Huntington Beach, not 15 minutes from our old apartment. I would frequently visit them and really loved their new roommates, who were Chilean. The house was in a line of homes, many of whom were not duplicates, but replicants of similarly styled California beach homes. The glass door gave entrance to the apartment, would frequently suffer difficulties as it would never seem to, simply open. There was a trick to it. Well, not really a trick per se, you just had to lift it and slide it. I had open access to the house, mostly because everybody loved me. I mean, I kind of always think everyone loves me though. I may be delusional. The door was not visible from the street. It was sheltered from view by a brick fence and a cast iron gate. It was here that I would enter, hoping to randomly catch one of my former roommates' best friends at home, not currently preparing to or currently leaving for work or school in Brian's case. On one of my occasional, uninvited, unannounced visits, I found the door open and the home entirely empty. It was customary for me to check the garage to see if anyone was home. Brian's car would usually be parked in the garage. However, this did not always guarantee his presence. It was the same on this occasion. The garage light was a bulb suspended a third of the way into the space. I would not enter the space alone as it was quite dark, the shadows acting as access points for things I tried not to entertain. I would normally find Brian in his room at his computer as he was studying at UC Irvine. During this visit, as I stated, I was alone. I was vocal in my announcement of my arrival and walked the short hallway to see if any of the other roommates were home. They were not. I sat in Brian's room at his computer as I was apt to whenever I wanted to surprise him. I mean, it would usually be unannounced, so it was always a surprise. However, I could not say if it was always the best times, especially since I can only remember the better times. I heard a set of footsteps walking up the stairs. I grew excited because I loved all the roommates and welcomed the company and an opportunity to catch up with them. The footsteps stopped. I called out, "Hey, what's up? I'm in Brian's room," or something to that nature, which quite possibly would be the dumbest thing a person could do in a scary movie scenario, but I did that thing. No one returned my introduction. I turned back towards the computer and decided that I would start to exit some of the windows that I had opened on the computer in case that I might have to leave abruptly. I mean, that is not to say that I was looking at explicit content on my friend's computer while he was away. The footsteps started again. They seemed to be near the top of the stairs, though. The steps just kept sounding. I grew nervous, exited the internet browser and began to call out, "Is anyone there?" I know, the dumbest thing I could do in a horror movie scenario. Black people don't usually survive to the end, and here I was growing more fearful by the second, acting like I'm impervious to death. I stood, turning towards the doorway, slowly walking to exit, all while asking if anyone was there. There was no one atop the stairs, on the stairs, or at the bottom of them. At least that could be seen from the Brian's doorway. I walked to the end of the hallway and all the rooms were as they were, untouched, or at least as they were last viewed by me. I called out again as I began to make my way down the stairs, being cautious as I had yet to receive a response in kind. The bathroom door sat open, giving little signs of activity, though the deep shadow cast by the blockage of the light gave rise to suspicion. This was not a fruitful conclusion, as it was empty. The front door was as it had been left. I had only to enter the garage to see if there would be any signs of activity. I opened the door wide in order to allow for the most available light to spill into the recesses of the darkness. I did not dare fully submerge myself in the space, given the unknown nature of the circumstances I might be facing. I could see within that Brian's car was still in place, nothing altered from my previous inspection, at least upon the closest inspection that I was willing to do at the time. I made the decision that I quite possibly did not wish to be alone in that space any longer. I made my exit, only to return when I was sure that there would be another present. The experience ended my unannounced visits to that house. I would later find out that other such occurrences would be experiences of those that resided in the house. I know I would like to take back what I said about wrapping up because I'm reminded of another spooky happening. This also takes place in Southern California only a year later. I lived with 2 roommates. The homes were part of a division that sat on a hill, looking onto a golf course. It was here that I would have one of the rare moments where I was able to show someone what I can see just in nature. One of my roommates owned a drum set and would often encourage me to play them as he experimented with either the bass or the guitar. I really loved to play the drums. I always wanted a set of my own and to be able to just find a way to communicate through music through a kind of emotional inner rhythm I feel vibrates inside of me. At some point, this particular roommate packed all his things and moved to New York, well, New Jersey. To my excitement, I was given the drum set. Prior to his departure, he and I became friends with the teen that lived next door. His name was Keon. He and I are still friends. He was a teen primarily in that he was like 19 when we first met. He and I got on very well and would often go driving around, explore random places as I was apt to do. He would also come by after getting off work. He was a diamond inspector. He lived with his little sister, mom, and dad. His dad owned a lawn service, the existence of which helped me finally reconnect with Keon after I returned home from my time of incarceration. The drums were housed in a garage, the least likely space to cause a disruption to the neighbors or the other housemates. The walls of the garage were unfinished, leaving a black insulation paper visible. This will be the focus of the story. I would tell Keon that I would smoke a bowl, drink a 32-ounce Miller High Life, and play the drums to relax after working. I sat at the drums, strumming, hinting at an untamed rhythmic expression, eyes closed at intervals, seeking out the dialogue from within. Keon knocks, and I invite him in. He heard me from his house and wanted to sit in. I remember that he mentioned our sessions being audible in their home. They didn't mind as long as it was good. They never told us to stop. I gazed ahead, towards Keon, not viewing him, as he sat on the short stack of stairs that lowered into the garage from the outside entrance. I noticed a spider's egg sac floating from one of the exposed panels of insulation. I allowed my eyes to rest on it, as it seemed to be part of a bigger image. As I let my eyes canvas the panel and those adjacent, I became aware of something truly incredible. There seemed to be a continuous image watermarked onto the surface created by the exposure of and the water damage. The egg sac appeared to rest within the eye socket of a skull that lie in bed within a massive storm cloud that approached the beach. The clouds, clearly defined, rolling, casting a darkness in the distance of the image's horizon. The waves, rocky, cresting, and crashing onto the shore. The image splits, and there's a cliff, a ledge, the top of which a woman with long, dark, curly hair, clad in a dress meant for dancing, based on the way the tail seemed to protrude outward as the image captures her mid-spin. The action exposing what appears to be legs of a goat. She danced, appearing to near the ledge, which halfway down depicted what seemed to be the outline of a winged, robed person falling headlong onto the water beneath. The water was filled with all manner of sea creatures, but more specifically, fish and shark-like images. I could not believe that such a vivid image was capable of being an accident, and I felt a chill come over me. I wanted to make sure that I was not having an episode. I asked Keon if he would entertain the idea of sitting at the drum set so that I might attempt to show him what it was I was seeing, so that I might put to rest my hyperactive mind. He did. I asked him to first focus upon the spider's egg sac. Then I asked him to expand his view slightly to encompass the clouds, then the waves and the beach. I then turned his attention to the depiction I saw to be a goat-legged woman dancing on a cliff overlooking the falling of an angel into the sea of creatures. To my surprise, he was able to see what I was pointing out and was able to comment on the clarity of the images produced. It made me feel less like I was tapped into another plane and more like a regular person. But a regular person who is able to sometimes see super creepy things like alone in a tub, alone with a friend's room, and with a friend playing drums. Well, it's still pretty cool. Thank you.
Pretty spooky, right? I was going to share a personal spectral anecdote, but I really can't compete with that. So I'm going to share something else that haunts me. One time, me and some friends were playing Taboo. Y'all ever play Taboo? All right. So my friend had a card, and it was me and my other friend. And the clue that was given was, this is a thing that's happening that people don't think is happening. And at the same moment that my friend yelled climate change, I yelled ghosts. So who's more haunted? Ronnie or me? Hard to say. I live with that every day. Anyway, let's finish that one up. Let's get down to our final story of the evening. Give it up for our final reader, Devin Will, who will be reading Little Baker by Hannah Ball.
Now I'm the tallest person. Oh no, I was gonna try and adjust it, but it's not happening. There we go. Now we're doing a little better. Oh yeah, I've been to jail once. Thanks to that bootstrap George W. Bush Jr., I was put in the slammer for the notorious PON charge. For all you innocent little babies out there, that's a possession of marijuana charge. You know it. The devil's grass, Keith, ganja, that good old Mary Jane. And for what amount, pray tell? A gram, you say? An ounce? A pound? A U-Haul? Nope, not even close. Brace yourself, professional potheads, because this one stings. I had 0.0, emphasis on the 0, 9 grams of weed. Yes, are you doing the math? 1/10 of a gram, stems and seeds. Thanks again, George W. Bush, for making that stupid law, really keeping us all safe out here, aren't you? I'd also like to note that this weed was very shitty weed, so those seeds weren't germinating anything. I must have thought I was gonna grow a shitty weed farm with my shitty seeds and my shitty little sandwich bag. These pigs had obviously swallowed the horse tranquilizing blue pill. I was 20 years old at the time, a month prior to my 21st birthday. I was a college kid making straight A's and was 2 years away from graduating. I also worked a full-time job as a cocktail waitress. I was an upstanding citizen, damn it. So here it is, how I got arrested. The story you've all been waiting for. One day, my friends, let's just say Alice and Harold, came over so we could skateboard like amateurs in the neighborhood streets. It was not fun, y'all. It was hot and the road was rocky and this whole thing was pointless as hell. No kickflips or manuals or grinding. Jesus, I could barely stay on the board. As we were posing as skateboarders, we were starting to get extremely dehydrated. We had gotten really high before we started skating, and when I say really high, I rarely smoked weed, so that's like 2 hits per week. We were also being really stupid summer Texans and did not bring any water. I had a brilliant stroke of genius and said, why don't we try to see if the playground at the school has a water fountain? The school was right behind the backyard of my house. We could have literally walked through the gate on the fence and poured a glass of water from the safety of my kitchen. But like those Dare commercials used to say, 2 hits of weed had turned my cerebrum into a gray matter pool of poo. Alice and Harold agreed that we should search for a water fountain on the playground because we were on this big adventure, right? We couldn't turn back now from our Lords of Dogtown stroll through the neighborhood streets. Before that day, I had been telling Alice that my friend James and I were climbing the school at night for fun. We were really cool and hardcore. James and I would find toys on the roof and throw them back into the playground because we were just 2 Robin Hoods in a world full of clumsy children who lacked object permanence and situational awareness. As we were looking for a water fountain, Alice also had a stroke of genius. Let's climb the school. It was spring break and the kids were out, so that's how we were even capable of climbing the school in broad daylight. She obviously wanted to be cool like James and I. She was also from California, where people got away with more than us Southern Betties. I really didn't want to, but I once was a very impressionable people pleaser that succumbs to peer pressure. So we did. We climbed the school, and like usual, there were toys, a boomerang, frisbee, and our favorite found goodie, a wall ball. Our punk rock Lords of Dogtown adventure suddenly turned into an episode of Hey Arnold as we climbed down to play wall ball in the hard streets. We finished our 5-minute game and started to walk back towards my backyard when this hillbilly school cop walks up and handcuffs all 3 of us and stiffly sits us on the curb. He then finds the weed. I took the rap for it because I was the only white passing friend, and I really thought they would just make me flush it down the toilet and tell me to pray or something. But no, the stand was on one day. He called the female cop to further search me and another Hispanic officer to scope the scene. The female didn't come because she thought it was dumb. And the Hispanic officer was obviously upset with the good old boy cop for even considering taking me in. The Hispanic officer asked if I'd give the name of my dealer, which I declined so that the good old boy cop would let me off the hook. The Hispanic officer was a big man. They let my friends go and took me to the school district's police department. I was given my one phone call. I called my dad. Hey Dad, guess what? I said sardonically. What? My dad says. I'm in jail. He laughs hysterically and asks me what for. Weed? He laughs again. He then told me he was sorry that I was in jail and that it wasn't a big deal, but he couldn't bail me out for a while till he got off work and said I should call my mom if I wanted to get out sooner.
I obviously did not want to stay for long, so I asked for another phone call. The cop lady said, I'm not supposed to, but I guess go for it. I called my mom, straight to the point because I knew this wasn't going to go well. Mom, I'm in jail for weed. Hannah, what the hell? You ruined my life. What were you thinking? You're so dumb. Blah. Just one big degradation ceremony as to be expected. It was a huge 180 from my dad's responses to himself. I then was put in this teeny tiny school cell. It was one of those small ones they put you in when they tried to scare a kid straight. The white cop started to talk mad shit about me right outside my cell. Trigger warning, this cop emotionally tortured me. He was telling the lady cop abhorrent things about me, to which the lady did not respond. They all thought he was stupid for taking me in, and he was trying to defend his valor or whatever by bringing down my character, knowing absolutely nothing about me other than I smoked a little weed. After about 10 minutes of verbal torture, they let me know that their system stopped working, so they had to take me to A-Leaf to fingerprint me. We get to A-Leaf and find out their systems were also down. So then the good old cops chief told him on the phone that he was going to have to take me downtown to the infamous Little Baker. They called it that because it was on Baker Street, and there was also a Big Baker where the processed convicts in orange jumpsuits went. The white cop then wanted to just let me go because he wanted to go home, but I had already been fingerprinted. Just my fucking luck. Now the cop is pissed at me because, this is all my fault. He stuck me in the cop car and started to drive downtown blasting his horrid Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, New Age country music. I knew he was playing it in uncomfortable volumes to punish me because, again, it's all my fault he has to go and take me downtown. He then takes me inside to drop me off and tries to give me a speech about how I can get it expunged and asks about my college degree. I give him the silent treatment. This man was a total piece of shit and should have been the one going to jail, not me. He straight up tortured me. I then get processed, mugshotted, cavity checked, in my Zelda Triforce t-shirt and purple cheetah print shorts. I was looking really cool now. Very gently, I was placed in my first drunk tank with concrete benches, an exposed toilet, and a phone with no corded phone piece. I guess they removed it so you couldn't use the mouthpiece as a weapon. You had to stick your ear to the speaker on the box to hear and then quickly change directions of your head to speak and then switch back to hear the response. It was a game to have even the simplest conversation without getting whiplash. It was me and one other person in that drunk tank, sitting on opposite sides. She looked very fucked up. I turned my head away and turned back, and there she was, swooped in right next to me. I didn't neglect my child, I swear, speaking to me as if I were the cops. She obviously had. She was so fucked up, the conversation didn't get very far. Other convicts started coming into the tank. One young girl was there for stealing a DVD from Walmart. Y'all remember Precious? She was also the first one bonded out, lucky girl. I thought I was next, and it was taking an extremely long time, so I went to the speaker box phone and called my mom. I got a hold of her, and she then told me all the systems went down because of the daylight savings time change, and she couldn't bond me out. Just my luck again. Y2K had to happen the one day I went to jail. They then sent me to walk to another drunk tank, and as we passed their offices, I saw that their computers were monochrome Kim Possible monitors with black screens and green typeface. This was 2011. Of course their systems went down because of a little blip like daylight savings. In the next drunk tank, I met a 17-year-old who was in there for her third offense of robbery with a deadly weapon. She had turned herself in after taking a vial of Xanax and passed out immediately. Lucky girl. I also met an extremely sweet Hispanic woman who was there for her daughter's truancy 3 years prior. This was very much a racial arrest because when she went to the pretrial court, she only owed $6 to the courts. This woman did not deserve to be in jail, but we stuck together and kept each other warm by sitting close in these concrete refrigerators. I met a lot of other very exciting people, some of which threw their ham sandwiches back at the guards. The sandwiches looked disgusting, so I understood why, but I was resourceful and used my ham sandwich as a pillow instead. Finally, I'm at the last step until I'm out of this hellhole and enter the prison court. I could not stand to hear another person say, "Man, I can't wait to get out of here. I need to get out of here." I'm tired of being here. When am I getting out of here? Over and over. They couldn't stop. I entered the court and they escorted me to an office on the side and said I could bond myself out with pretrial diversion. I did not read the fine print, but signed immediately and went to the last drunk tank before I was out. I met a group of women who were the DWI weekenders and turned themselves in on a Friday so they could be out by Monday in time to go back to work. For some reason, their hair was perfect. Like they were going to test that on a plane to Malibu as soon as they walked out of those doors. I waited 2 hours in that last tank and then finally freedom. I got my things back, of course, cigarettes on, and walked into the sunlight. I think a pack of cigarettes was all I had on me, honestly. One of the girls that was in the last drunk tank with me gave me a cigarette because she strategically hid hers in her purse and they didn't find it. I wonder what they do with all those packs of cigarettes. I didn't have my phone, so I called from her phone as well. My mom told me to meet her around the corner at Spaghetti Warehouse so that I could eat a real meal. I had been in the slammer for 25 hours without a single bite and I was starving. I walked along the bayou by a squad of gutter punks and asked them for a cigarette as well. They tried to hit on me, but I put on my newly earned hardened criminal face. I smoked my cigarette and walked into the Spaghetti Warehouse, and there we were. My whole entire fucking family. I thought it was just gonna be my mom and stepdad, but no. She invited everyone. My aunts, uncles, nephews. The torture would not end. I tried not to cry and ordered a chicken parmesan at my shameful dinner party. I am just so glad I was starving because after that first bite, nothing mattered anymore. I got home and opened my phone to see all my missed calls and texts, and then there was a picture that made it all better. Alice and Harold, each wearing a white Fruit of the Loom t-shirt, they had Sharpied "We Can" in large bold.
Incredible story. 420 stars, no notes. As to the question of what happens to all the confiscated paraphernalia and whatnot, I don't know about you, but I think HPD sometimes stands for hella puffs. Dang. All right, a couple good laughs. All right, I'll workshop now. Who's talking? I'm talking. You shut the hell up! Don't you remember a thing for better? Well, fortunately for you, it's the end of the show. So, thanks for coming, everybody. Now, before we leave, please make sure you come up here and check out some of this amazing GUST merch for sale on the stage. It is wonderful. It is super high quality, and it will be perfect for you to bring your writer's notebook for you for the next workshop. So enjoy your evening. Thank you for coming. Thank you for Emily Blair for inviting me to host tonight. I had a super good time. And if you aren't already, do follow Grown Up Storytime on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, where they stream their monthly shows to the world. And that's it. Thanks for coming. Have a great night. Thank you.